What's up, everyone? This is Q from Retro Q Gaming, and this video has a bit of a troubled making because I was originally going to make this video at some point today, which is what I was telling myself yesterday and this morning when I woke up, and then the whole ODST thing put me in a pissed off mood, and I didn't really feel like I wanted to make any more videos today. But I said at the last minute, I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna make this video because I've been putting it off for too long, and I feel like I'm doing my own channel a little disservice because I've been focusing too much on certain stuff, mostly different, news and things like that, and I didn't want to focus specifically on news on the channel. I wanted to just talk about other stuff as well. So the reason for that essentially is I'm going to talk about one of arguably the biggest DLC of the year. I say arguably because it's 50-50, but we'll get on to it now in a minute anyway. But the DLC I'm talking about is Destiny and the House of Wolves. Now, this isn't a full review. I'm not going with a review thing. It's just not what I feel like I'm doing. I'm just giving my thoughts and opinions on it based on the time I've spent in the game pre House of Wolves and the time I've spent in it post House of Wolves. What it's added, what it's changed, what it hasn't changed, that kind of stuff. Because I don't really feel like I want to review it. I mean, if chances are, if you're watching this video, you've already committed to Destiny at this point, or you've probably committed to the DLC. Maybe are enjoying it, maybe you're not enjoying it. Maybe you've got some beefs with it, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to see how other people enjoy it and who don't. Anyway, but that's enough of an intro. So I'm gonna actually get started in it. What I have to do real quick is I do have to touch on one or two of the original Destiny mechanics and features from, say, the launch game and the first DLC. I'm only going to touch on them as briefly as possible, just so that some of the stuff in House of Wolves makes more sense, because some of that I feel was changed and adjusted because of the previous setup. Anyway, what originally happened was when Destiny first launched, the level cap was 20, so you would level up to level 20 as you would in most games, with experience from quests and experience in, from finishing missions, from story, from kills, all that kind of shit. So you'd get to level 20 and there would be different tiers of weapons. You'd have the worst quality weapons, which were weapons and armor, which were white. Then you'd have the next ones up, which were green. Then you'd have blue. Then you'd have purple, which were legendary. And you'd have exotic, which were yellow. And the thing about exotic is you can only put on one exotic weapon and one exotic armor piece at the same time. So that's the main thing. That's the first main thing. What they also had was they had a level cap of 30, or what was called a light level cap of 30. So you'd get up to level 20 with just straight up experience, and then you'd get high-end end-game pieces of gear, say level 20-ish, 20 plus equivalent of, say, armor. And each piece of armor, depending on how strong it was, would have different stats called light. The more light you stacked up, the higher your level essentially went, and you could go all the way up, breaking the level 20 cap all the way up to level 30. Now, to do that, what you had to do was essentially, because you could get up to level 29 using legendary and exotic gear from basically anywhere, because there was really only a couple of places to get it. You could buy it from some of the in-game vendors. You could get it as drops, or from legendary engrams, which would randomly drop and never give you a piece of gear. Or what you could do is eventually you'd get up to the raid, and which was the Vault of Glass. The raid released, I think it was 2 weeks after the game first came out, and you would need raid gear. Full sets of raid gear, fully upgraded. They upgrade with in particular the armor would upgrade with Ascendant Shards, or was it Radiant Shards? I think it was Ascendant. Yeah, it was Ascendant shards, and Ascendant shards were relatively rare. You'd get a couple in the vault per week. You'd get a couple doing other quests, all that kind of shit. So you wouldn't generally have loads. But what essentially you needed to do was you would grind the raid once or twice a week, depending on if you could do hard mode and whenever hard mode released. And you'd hope you could get all your full raid gear and then slowly but surely upgrade that while mixing in one exotic piece of armor at the same time. So that was pretty much the main thing to do, and that was really all there was to do until the first DLC released, which I believe was the Dark Below in February. I think it was February. And the main issue with the Dark Below was, before that, like I said, the level cap was 20 and 30. 20 from experience and 30 from light. And then on day one of the Dark Below, you could instantly buy vendor gear. So you could get stuff from NPCs that you had saved up currency from. And you could just instantly buy stuff that was better than even the best of the previous stuff. So basically you could have fully upgraded entire raid set, fully upgraded raid guns and all as well, or whatever exotics or legendaries you were rocking at the time, and you could buy an armor piece that, completely unupgraded at all, was just naturally better than the previous stuff, than even the top end previous stuff. It went the same with the weapons as well. The previous weapons, they would cap out at 300 damage, and when you bought even the most basic legendary or exotic weapon from the first DLC, I believe it was 301, and then it would cap out a bit higher at maybe 335 when it was fully upgraded. So that presented a problem. That basically invalidated all of everyone's previous 4 or 5 months worth of work. And a lot of people were not happy with that. Now, some people can argue it was a means to an end. I mean, the gear you got previously was a means to an end. Say, because you need high-end, if not top-end gear from the old stuff to work on getting the high-end, top-end gear from the new stuff. The problem is that wasn't the case, because you could just buy it from vendors and you were instantly better than you were before, or you're instantly better than people who were better than you before, because they could do something and you couldn't. And because of that, a lot of people were unhappy, and it created a whole bunch of problems. Fast forward 2 weeks later, and you had the DLC's first raid that came out, and that raid was Crota's End. And then I think another 2 weeks after that, you had Crota's End hard mode. So again, it became another case of rinse and repeat. You grind out your weekly Nightfall strike every week. You grind out your weekly heroic strike every week. You grind out your 100 Vanguard marks every week, which you could do in the original game. All three of these things you could do in the base game, not just the DLC. So, excuse me, I'm talking too fast and too much for my throat to handle. But the main thing that I forgot to mention actually was you can earn the Vanguard marks, which you can earn 100 of them a week. There was a cap of 200 altogether, so you'd really be spending them you'd spend them every like 3/4 of a week or every week and a half as you go, so they don't go to waste. And you would use those marks, you'd save them up, buy pieces of gear, and those are the ones that I was saying that you could save up and instantly buy gear in the DLC, in the first DLC, that was instantly better and invalidated your previous stuff. These Vanguard marks are not hard to get at all. I mean, they are absolutely ridiculously easy. You can get them doing standard bounties every day. You could get them doing strikes, which are the equivalent of, if you've ever played MMOs, they're just the equivalent of regular dungeon grinds. They take, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes, and you get a handful of marks. And that's really it. So they were very easy to get. I mean, an absolute casual player could log on for maybe half an hour a day, and after, I don't know, 5 days, they'd have full marks. It was very easy, and it was very easy to cap your marks in a week. Now, after that, so it was rinse and repeat until the next DLC came out, which was House of Wolves in May. It came out a little bit 2 weeks ago. Now, what I did was I stopped playing Destiny, the base game of Destiny, after about 2 months, I think. And I stopped playing until The Dark Below came out. And I think I started playing it a week before The Dark Below came out, so I get back into the swing of things. And then I played it for maybe 2 weeks after The Dark Below, if even that. Because I got to the point where I realized, okay, it's more of exactly the same. I mean, I'm just going to get as much gear as I can as quickly as possible, because you can generally cap out at all. Oh, one thing actually. The Dark Below, the first DLC, it raised the light level cap from 30 to 32. You could only get to level 32 if you got all the high-end exotic and raid gear from Crota's End. So basically, most people in the original game would be level 29. Most people in the DLC would be level 31, as opposed to level cap of 30 and 32. So because of that, I quit The Dark Below about 2 weeks after it had actually came out, and I felt like I'd experienced basically everything in it, because there was no matchmaking for high-end raids. So what you needed to do is you needed to go to an external site. Some people had communities on, say, Reddit that were looking for members. I personally used DestinyLFG.com. There's 2 main sites out there. Actually, there used to be 3 main sites, but one of them seems to have just disappeared. But there's like DestinyLFG.com, DestinyLFG.net, and back when I used to use it originally, there was ThatWizardCameFromTheMoon.com. Yes, that's the joke. But that was actually a matchmaking website. So you go on there, you post up your stats, what you are, what you're looking for, and you get a party. You do your raid or strike or whatever, and then you part ways, and you're done for the week. So that was basically that. And then fast forward to House of Wolves. Now, before House of Wolves came out, Bungie had said that they weren't going to make the same mistakes, and it felt like a lot of the mistakes that they had made in the base game and the first DLC had been corrected with it. So the main thing is that the House of Wolves upgraded the light level cap to 34, and at the same time it did not include a raid. It did include a new endgame feature, which is the Prison of Elders. I'll get onto that now in a minute, but it didn't include a new high-end. It didn't include a new raid, but they also added a system where you could use any old piece of armor or any old piece of gear, as long as it was legendary or exotic. It could be a base piece, a minimum piece, like a level 30 cap piece from the original style game. It could have been something from the Dark Below era, where it was even the base stats were slightly higher than a top end base game, or it could be anything in the new set, because obviously the House of Wolves added new weapons and new sets of armor, all that kind of shit. So what they did is they added a system where you can actually upgrade the previous stuff beyond what it was currently limited to. So for example, you could have a basic Vex Mythoclast, which was it was an exotic gun from the base game, and when that was fully upgraded, that would upgrade to 300 damage, and you could upgrade that even further to the equivalent of a level 34 piece, which would bring it up to 365 damage. So it would be doing damage comparable to every other main weapon from you would use at level 34. So they did that with every old legendary and exotic piece of both weapons and armor. You can only get a certain amount of the pieces they require certain things, which are called etheric lights, and you can only get a certain amount of etheric lights per week, and you have to use them kind of sparingly. But obviously you can buy and get drops of new level gear, which would be naturally higher anyway, but obviously you can bring the old stuff up to the same level. Now the thing about that is, it feels like they may have cut back some of the new stuff, or some of the DLC that would have been in the new stuff, some of the content basically. It feels like they may have cut some of it out, or they may have adjusted it to peel way too much back just to fit in the entire system about bringing all the old stuff up. I mean, there's arguably, there's arguably no reason to do any of the new content, the Prison of Elders. I'm not going to cover the PvP stuff in this, but I mean that's a whole different thing. But there's arguably no reason to do any of the new stuff short of progressing or catching up faster, if you will, because you can get etheric lights from the weekly Nightfall Strike, which have been in it since the base game. So, I mean, if you just do one of those a week, it's not a guaranteed drop. I mean, I've done it every week. I've done it both weeks since it released. And the first week I didn't get one. The second week I did. So obviously it's not a 100% drop. But I mean, you don't have to touch the Prison of Elders to go for an etheric light, and you can still get up to the max level. So it feels like there's no absolute reason to do it. It feels like they may have pared too much back or held too much back just for the sake of playing catch up. And I'll move on to the Prison of Elders now anyway. So the Prison of Elders is the new replacement for a raid that they have in it. It's a very basic system. It doesn't have all these crazy mechanics that, say, the raids do, like you'd have in Crota's End or Vault of Glass. So what these are for the Prison of Elders is, it's basically, you go into an area, you've got an area you've got 4 different areas, one for each type of enemy. You've got one for the Cabal, you've got one for the Vex, you've got one for the Fallen, you've got one for the Hive. And usually what you'll do is you'll fight 3 waves of each. So like I'd go, they'd send us into the Fallen, we fight 3 waves of the Fallen. Then they'd send us into the Vex, we fight 3 waves of the Vex. And we'd usually fight one section of each before we get thrown into a boss. And, you finish that, and you get put down to the treasure room, basically, which is going to tie into something I'm about to cover in a minute. So that's really it. The basic level is level 28, the basic Prison of Elders level. That one has in-game matchmaking. It's stupidly easy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you get all the stuff. The higher level ones, the level 32, 34, and 35 Prison of Elders, they have different base rewards. For example, the level 32 one gives you an armor core. You can trade an armor core in for a top level piece of level 34-ish gear. So, I mean, that automatically would boost you up and replace whatever, while you get the chance to upgrade, or while you're waiting to get the etheric light, to upgrade your favorite old piece. And then you'd have the 34 version, which is the same, although the 34 one can give you etheric light, as well as a weapon core. And a weapon core will give you a top end level 34 style weapon, while you're trying to get the etheric light to boost up your old one. And then you have the level 35 one, which can drop the top end stuff, as well as it gives you an etheric light, a weapon core, and an armor core. So you get all 3 of them. But it can also give you top end stuff that I believe you can't get anywhere else, or at least a chance at top end stuff, I should say, because there's an extra boss in there that's kind of, I won't say story related, but it does tie into the main story. So the main reason that I've been mentioning that it feels like a catch up / grind patch is because the Prison of Elders, every time you do the Prison of Elders, when you finish it, you get dropped down to the treasure room. Now, the treasure room has 3 treasure chests in it. It's got 2 small ones, which are just like any regular old treasure chest. You open them, you loot them, blah, blah, blah. And it also has a big main treasure chest. Now, that big main treasure chest, you need a treasure key to open. The treasure key is a legendary item that has a pretty shitty drop rate. Now, to get a legendary, or to get a treasure key, what you can do is you have to do one of the new smaller public event style things that was added in for House of Wolves. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're familiar with the public events anyway. So in certain areas, after a while, you'll have something similar to a public event, and these are called, well, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're just called wolves encounters. You get a small message in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, says, I think it's a pack of wolves is prowling. So these are some fairly high level, generally not too hard, but if you know what you're doing, they're fairly simple and can be soloed. What you do is you fight a couple of waves of high level fallen, elites, majors, bosses, ultras, whatever you want to call them. And when you kill them, if you successfully kill them, you get an, God, I hate saying this word because I usually say it properly, or I usually don't say it properly. You get an ether key. Now, usually I say an ether key because I grew up saying ether, even though now I know the word is ether. But you get a key anyway. Now, that key lasts 90 seconds, and that will spawn a treasure chest in the region you're in. Now, they're usually, it can spawn in like one of 4 or 5 different places, depending on where you are. But when you open that treasure chest, you have a chance at a treasure key. Now, the problem is, that treasure key is a pretty shitty drop rate. I farmed, oh God, I'd say close to 100 treasure chests at the moment. And like by the time I'm making this video, I farmed roughly 100 treasure chests. Or at least very close to 100. And I think I've got 4 keys total, and that's in about 2 weeks. Now, if you really want, you can look at it. Is the new DLC, House of Wolves, did include a couple of new reputation factions, and it did include a new set of bounties. One of the new sets of bounties involves killing certain groups of wolves, so if you're doing that, you will arguably come across, if you do all your bounties every week, because these queens ones that I'm talking about for the wolves, they only reset once a week, unlike once a day like all the others. So if you do all those, you will come across at least 3 groups of wolves, so you can argue, if you find it, you will get minimum of 3 chests if you find one each. Now, what you can also do is when you open that chest and the drops come up, you can quickly jump on your Sparrow. Sparrow? I was going to call it a ghost for a minute because I was playing Halo earlier. But you jump on your Sparrow. If you quickly leave the area to the point where the name of the other area comes up, and then turn around and come back in, you can actually reopen that chest. And you can do that as many times as you want within that 90 seconds, as long as you have that key. Now, if you die, you lose the key as well. But generally, depending on where the location of the chest is, you can generally open the chest between 2 and 5 times. But even if you can open it between 2 and 5 times, chances are you're probably not even going to get a key. I've spent like 4 hours farming chests, and I mean, I've got like 1 key in 4 hours, and these events happen usually every 10 minutes, maybe even less, and that's between 2 and 5 times per treasure chest. So I mean, you're looking at a lot of treasure chests and not getting one, and that's a pretty shitty drop rate. And that essentially makes the Prison of Elders not worth doing if you don't have those treasure keys. So you have to invest a serious amount of time in absolutely boring, arguably pointless grinds, because 99% of the time you're not going to get a good engram, so you're not going to get a good piece of armor, piece of armor, or a good replacement weapon. So you're literally just sitting there, almost killing time, wasting time, just trying to get a key that it's going to take you absolutely ages to get. And then when you do get it, you basically get one shot at the Prison of Elders. Well, you get one full run of the Prison of Elders. And because of that, and because of how much it feels like they've cut back on it, just to accommodate the previous systems or the previous level caps and all of bringing it up, I can't really endorse, to me at least anyway, because this isn't a review, and if you can take my opinion on it as you want, but I can't endorse it of House of Wolves. I can't endorse it as a complete success. I don't call it a complete failure, but I don't call it a complete success. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being complete failure, 10 being complete success, I'd say it's maybe a 6, maybe a 6.5. Because, a 5 would just be completely average and completely apathetic, but 1 would be a complete failure, 10 would be a complete game-changing revolution, well, within the game. But I would call it maybe a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10 in the aspect of how much it succeeded, if you will. So I mean, you can arguably take that as what you want. I believe the DLC will be €20 on its own. The season pass or the expansion pass, whatever they call it, I think it was 35. But mine came with Ghost Edition, so I can't really comment on that. But because of the amount of content in it and what you have to do and how basic it is or how basic it seems, I can really say that the majority of, well, the content, if you will, I did air quotes there, but the content in the new content in the House of Wolves patch, it seems like it would be something that you would buy as a small DLC add-on for €5, and the other stuff would just be, say, quality of life. In any other game, it would be quality of life, balance checks and all that kind of shit. So because of that, I don't feel like it's worth it. But I mean, if you play Destiny a lot, chances are you already have it. You've already committed to it. Maybe you're playing it already and you like it. But I just want to put my opinion on it all because I have been focusing the wrong way on my channel. But I said a minute ago, I started playing Destiny again a week before House of Wolves came out. It's been almost 3 weeks. Well, it's been almost 2 full weeks since it came out. Come this Tuesday, it will be the third reset for House of Wolves. I don't think I'm ever going to play Destiny again. That's it. I'd pretty much given up on Destiny anyway because the new Comet or King, Fallen King or whatever it's called, that's rumored to be coming out this year. Destiny just isn't doing it for me. It's not to say it's a bad game. It's not to say it's a good game. It's just not doing it for me. If you enjoy Destiny, good for you. You play your game, enjoy yourself. You're getting your money's worth. That's all that matters. It's just not doing it for me. Even with the addition of this new DLC that I feel did a couple of things right, did a couple of things wrong, and left a couple of things out for the sake of it all. It's a mediocre lukewarm for me anyway. But I'm probably 99% sure I'm completely done with Destiny as a franchise. But again, if you enjoy playing Destiny, or I'm not trying to put anyone else off Destiny, or I'm not trying to convert anyone to get them to stop playing Destiny. I'm just saying it's at this point I've realized it's just not for me anymore, at least anyway. So the chances of them doing something absolutely drastically game-changingly major to turn it around and change it from what it is now to something that I could enjoy and see myself playing a lot and put a lot of time into, I just don't see that happening with the first major expansion this year or Destiny 2 next year. I just don't see it happening. So for me, that's probably it anyway. So this video has gone on way too long because I knew it would be long. I was probably expecting it to be about 15 minutes long, but here we are coming up on the 30-minute mark. So let me know in the comment section below your entire experience with Destiny, not just the specific one with House of Wolves, but just Destiny in general. Like, I mean, did you play it a bit, get bored of the grind and just burn out? Did you play it consistently, or did you go back for each DLC for maybe 2 weeks and then figure out it was more of the same? There's so much I could ask people for on the Destiny comments. So literally anything Destiny in there, you can just throw it in there, and I'm curious to see it and hear it. So let me know all that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter because I have a new series starting on May 31st, which is technically tomorrow, but by the time this video is done encoding and uploading, it might actually be today because it is fairly late tonight. So anyone who's a gamer, I think, will enjoy that. I'm going to be tweeting out a picture of a game every day, and I want people to tweet back what they think of the game, any cool stories or experiences they've had with it anyway. But there'll be more details on that on Twitter tomorrow when I put them up before I start the actual series. So I'll have a link to my Twitter profile down below. so you can follow, watch, share, do whatever you want. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.